Let's talk about immigration. When, at first you were given this job, which comes with a lot of responsibility, I believe it's one of the most important jobs and one that you guys had some victories, some to really brag about because the country got safer. So I'm sure every mom in the country is happier that she is safer because of what happened in the borders. But a couple things. When I first saw the numbers, right, and it said, 12 to 20 million illegal immigrants that came through the last 4 years under Biden. We've all seen the stats. We've seen the high numbers. We've seen a low. We've seen what the government tells us. We've seen the 20 million numbers. We've seen what Tom Homan has said. And then you'll see, and it says in 2025, 319,000 immigrants were removed. This year, roughly 470 to be removed. How do you remove 12 to 20 million? I mean, you have to do around 3.5 million a year to do that. How do you do that? How do you realistically accomplish that mission?
Well, let me go back a little bit and explain some of President Trump's strategy because when he won the election and he called me up and asked me if I wanted to have a role in his new administration, he said, Kristi, I've heard that you might be interested in being in my cabinet. Would you, some people have mentioned ag, some have interior. What are you thinking? And I said, sir, I would like to be your Homeland Security Secretary. And he said, why would you want to do that? And I said, sir, because it's your number one priority. You have talked for years about us needing a secure border, about the fact that we had an invasion coming into our country where millions of people were let in unvetted. We don't even know who all is here. And I said, if I'm going to have to leave my family in South Dakota and spend time in DC and be working, I want it to be a job of significance that is consequential. And I said, and I think that's going to be hard. And I want to know that you're going to have somebody there that's actually tough enough to do it, that will be able to follow through on everything that you've promised. And so he gave me the honor of doing the job. But one of the things he told me, even before I was sworn in, is that he said, Kristi, those commercials you ran in South Dakota, promoting South Dakota when the rest of the country was locked down, you ran those commercials inviting everybody to come to South Dakota, that you were open for business, you wanted them to come visit. And he said, I want those for the border. I want you to run commercials in this country that shows that we're enforcing our laws, we're not going to allow this anymore, and that we're going to deport people. And so he knew that not only was it going to have to be a decision to secure our border and that let our Border Patrol and let our ICE agents do their job, but also we had to message to the country and to the world that it was going to be a priority to enforce our laws. And he had me run commercials in other countries where a lot of that migration was coming from, Guatemala, Honduras, Mexico, and say to those folks there in commercials, do not come to the United States anymore illegally. Our border is closed. If you come here, we will arrest you, we will detain you, and we will take you back home, and you'll never get the chance to come to the United States. So I think that a lot of the strategic plan that President Trump has had from the beginning is not just arresting illegal criminals and getting them off our streets and protecting Americans. It's also messaging to the world that there's a new sheriff in town, that we're enforcing our laws. And over 2 million, I think about 2.5 million people have voluntarily gone home. So when you ask, how are you ever going to get 15 to 20 million people to leave this country that are here illegally? A lot of it is convincing them. A lot of it is going out and enforcing the law, going after those criminals and detaining them, and then making sure that we're doing all of that while we still continue to secure the border and have the assets there showing it's a priority.
How do you do that, though? Because convincing them to say, okay, Johnny and Mary, you guys are here illegally. We suggest you go home and try to come back here legally. If somebody is willing to illegally break the law to come here, you think they're going to follow orders if we tell them to go back? So then, for me in 2024, when the election was taking place, and one of the 20 promises that the president made was, getting rid of the 10, 12 million, 50 million illegals. And I know Tom Homan was the right person for that job. I mean, that's somebody that I really was excited about getting back into it. But the reality of it is, how do you do it without the optics? We saw what happened with Alex Preddy. We saw what happened with the campaign Be Good. We saw what happened with all this stuff. And that was nasty. The pressures were very high on your job. A lot of people were saying, hey, Kristi should resign. She should get fired. The tensions were up to here, right? But then now we see a little bit it's come down. And the president even said, moving forward, if states and cities don't ask us to come in, we're not going to come in. But then isn't that, because some of the folks that voted for it are saying, wait a minute, are you guys not keeping a promise? How do you balance those two?
He wants to be asked to come in and to surge operations in those cities. He wants to, if a mayor or a governor recognizes that they have an out of control criminal element in their city, if they have people that are coming in and perpetuating fraud like we've seen in Minneapolis, that when we come in, to have that cooperation of local law enforcement is incredibly important. But the president's been very clear too. We're going to enforce the law. So yes, we're going to prioritize criminals, those murderers and those rapists, individuals out there trafficking our children and proliferating drug abuse and selling drugs. We're going to prioritize them, but nobody is off the table. We're going to, if you're here illegally, you may be detained if you're in one of those situations where you're with those criminals and removed from this country. Clearly, Patrick, millions of people have gone home on their own. They've seen what we're doing on our streets. They've seen us go out there and be strong in enforcing our laws. And they decided, you know what, maybe now is a good time for me to go back to, Panama or go back to Ecuador, or situations have changed in their country. So what we do is we buy them a plane ticket. We give them $2,600 when they land in their country and give them some money to start going on. And many of the times I've gone to dozens of these countries and negotiated repatriation programs in their country. So in some of these countries, they've set up housing for these individuals. When they leave the United States and go home, they'll help them with housing. They'll get them trained to fill a job that they need in that country. They'll educate the children. I think Guatemala put forward a scholarship so that the kids there now can get an education when they return back home. And making those connections is something that I don't think any administration has ever facilitated before. President Trump's put a lot of work into making sure that we're encouraging people to go back home. And when they get there, that they'll recognize that their home country is the best place to be. And we also are very clear, if you wait until we detain you and remove you from this country, you will never get the chance to come back to the United States. You won't get to be in a work program. You won't have the opportunity to come back with a green card or to be a citizen. That you have shown that you will break our laws and not follow the protocols, and that there will be consequences for it.
When they criticize the president, because there's different conservatives. There's conservatives that are the rhinos. You have the conservatives that are pro-life conservatives, Christians. Then you have the social media conservatives, the Twitter conservatives. There's many different kinds, right? And I look at each one of them as a different state that you have to win over, and they have different things that's important to them. Like the conservatives on X, Epstein's number one, right? You can go to YouTube. Maybe that's not a priority for them. When people say about Epstein, I say it was never in his 20 promises that he made. It was a promise that Kash Patel made. It was a promise that Pam Bondi made. But you never heard the president make that promise. Even when he was interviewed by Rachel Campos Duffy, he said yes to 9/11. He said yes to John F. Kennedy, but he was a little bit slow to saying to Epstein. So let's set the Epstein aside because that wasn't one of his 20 promises. But I think the fair criticism is because if you interview with CNN or ABC or CBS, the challenge you're going to get is how harsh you guys are. I cannot believe what you're doing. You don't understand. You're separating these kids and these families. Do you not have a heart? What kind of a person are you? Like, they'll take that angle. But to the people that voted for him, the near 80 million, whatever the number is, they're saying, wait a minute. We said, these immigrants have to leave. And you said that was one of your promises. And it looks like because of the amount of pushback and media that you got, now you guys are kind of backing off a little bit and saying, no, we're going to wait till cities and states invite us in. And if you do that, then that means you're not going to reach the goal of 10 or 20 million that you promised. What do you say to those people?
Nothing's changed. We're still enforcing the law, and we're still making sure that every single person that's in this country illegally knows that if we
But what if those cities that don't invite you in,
and remove them?
But respectfully, what if those cities don't invite you in? What if these, cities that are saying, yeah, we don't have to report the stuff to the states, the blue cities that we know, the ones top 23 out of 30 crime cities, they're like, we're not going to work with you. We're not going to cooperate with you. We'll cooperate with Obama and make it look very nice. When he deported the people, we'll cooperate with Bill Clinton and make it look good. But there's no way in the world we're going to cooperate with Trump's administration. What do you say to those?
We've never said that we wouldn't be there. We've never said that we wouldn't have a presence there and enforce the law. What the president's talking about is the surging operations, the sending many, many more entities and law enforcement officers and the military into a city, while you're facing the kind of sophisticated, violent rioters that we faced in Minneapolis. We see those out in Portland, and Portland's a little bit of a different element because they have this Antifa element that is so um, professionalized over the years. They allowed it to get institutionalized, and now they're dug in and use it in such a way to manipulate the situation and do damage that it's become not just a nationwide network, but a worldwide international network too. So in Minneapolis, you've seen decades long corruption and fraud in business and manipulating federal taxpayers' dollars and funneling it to criminals and outside the country, that facilitated a lot of this fraud we've seen, not just in the Medicaid programs and delivery of services to developmentally disabled individuals, but also immigration fraud. We've uncovered hundreds of cases of immigration fraud, not just in Minnesota, but across the country. And then that has allowed this anti-ICE entity to come in and establish itself that was extremely sophisticated and facilitated and funded by individuals and nonprofits that facilitated that kind of resistance. President Trump recognizes how dangerous that is and that it needs to be stopped. We just need to do it in a way that makes sure our law enforcement officers are protected and they're not put in situations that could help hurt them and the operations themselves, prevent us from being able to enforce the law when we go in and go after these bad criminals. We've had thousands of people that we've been able to take just out of Minneapolis and St. Paul area that are criminal illegals that have been removed, and that city is much safer now because of President Trump and those ICE officers being there.
You know how you talk about 80-20 issues and 85-15 issues? Mm-hmm. The more the left is forced to defend ideas that are ludicrous, the more we win, right? The more they are out there defending what's wrong with them being here illegal, stolen land. We need more of that because the elections are won by the middle, right? The independent folks in the middle, those are the ones that can go this way, they can go this way. I don't know, I'm going to go a little bit this way. This year I'm going to vote this way. If they can see with their eyes, you don't make any sense. What are you talking about? I feel safer with Trump's administration. I feel better for the economy. I just hope that doesn't slow down and you continue because we see what's going on with Mexico, right? We're seeing with El Mencho, and I know that also kind of falls under your jurisdiction as well.
If you love this country, show it. Lead with pride in the Valuetainment USA collection. Designed for freedom thinkers, built for everyday leaders. Red, white, blue. Purpose. Wear what you believe in. Valuetainment USA.
If you enjoyed this video, you want to watch more videos like this, click here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click here.